Alright guys, Travis here at Dutters Dirt Bikes. Do remember to subscribe to my channel. One thing I want to be talking about today is tire pressures and why I say don't bother checking with a gauge. I hear a lot of guys talking about tire pressures. A lot of guys will ask me what tire pressures you're running, tire pressures you're running. Doesn't matter, okay? A lot of guys are gonna be like, what the hell do you mean? The reason why I say your tire pressure doesn't really matter is because it depends on the tire you're running, the wheel diameter you're running, and the terrain you're running. So now, if you really want to know, roughly, I run 17 PSI in the front and 8 in the rear. Now, to your bike at home, that doesn't really mean anything, along with the riding you do. So, for like front tires, depending on if you're doing more rocky terrain where you don't want to be hitting your wheel, or if you're doing more snow and mud riding like right now, it's winter time. And then the rear tire. Biggest thing about rear tires, and I guess with the front, is the carcass of your tire. Totally changes depending on your brand, depending on your size, depending on what compound the rubber is. So that's why your tire pressures don't really matter. You gotta learn how to go by feel. Me, I'm more of an old school rider. I don't really pay much attention to all the new stuff until I found out about soft tires. Those are pretty freaking cool. But you gotta learn how to feel what the tire is at, feel how much movement it has, and then compare it to how it rides, you know? So yeah, you're doing harder terrain, you want a little bit higher pressure so you don't beat your wheel and yes, get a pinch flat. That's another thing I hear a lot of guys complain about is pinch flats. Pinch flats, it's like, properly inflate your tires. Yes, you get more traction and lower pressure, but you know, if you also pop a tire, that doesn't do you a lot of good either. Run the proper tires according to your terrain, learn how they feel and how they should go. Another thing too is I'll see some tires advertised heavy sidewall, run lower PSIs. I've seen that on the Dirt Bike channel. He was talking about a tire that had a really hard carcass, and he was talking about how low of a PSI he could run. Well, it doesn't mean shit if you have such a heavy sidewall that it doesn't flex. And then you take these Shinko tires, they're a fairly soft carcass on that tire, so running 8 PSI, you can get a fair amount of movement out of those. So that's my little spiel about tire pressures and how I believe is the right way to check. So here's an up close view of more of what I'm talking about. So you can see the 18-inch rims have a larger tire profile than, let's say, the 19. So the 18, I can get away with running a lower pressure. So with the Shinko 525 at 8 PSI, that is about how much movement I have. And for me, that's a good amount. That still gives me quite a bit of traction without worrying about hitting my wheel and giving me a pinch flat. Now, when it's snowy out, yeah, I'll drop this guy down to roughly 5 PSI. Now the front, 17 sounds like a lot for a front tire, but you go check it. The camera doesn't really show much, but I still have a fair amount of movement in this tire. So kind of gives you a perspective. So judge it based off your own tire, your own feel, learn what it should feel like is my best advice.